Hello, guys. Welcome to a new chapter of the Shogi series. So today we're gonna be talking about Tenjiku Shogi. Okay, this is translated as the Indian chess or the Great Indian Chess, depending on the variation that you go for. It is a variation of the large size in Shogi, and it is a very old game that dates back to the 15th or 16th century. And its main base comes from Shogi, which is something that we have covered in another one of the videos beforehand. However, the sources on this kind of game are not very clear, and they are normally incomplete. Normally only the most popular variants of Shogi, like Shogi, Dai Shogi, and Shogi, are the ones that we have the more reliable and varied kind of sources. However, the rules of modern Tenjiku Shogi are based on the ones of Shogi, and they must have been played in a similar manner, if not exactly the same, as the main base of the game is Shogi. So without further ado, I will proceed to the rules of the game. So the objective of this game is like all of the other Shogi variants. The objective is to capture the opponent's king, and if necessary, the crown prince, which, as you know, guys, counts as the second king. Unlike normal Shogi, there is no drop rule in this kind of size games. So then, the equipment of the game, there will be two players, the Sete and the Gote, that will play in a board of 16 by 16 with a total of 256 squares, hence of why it's called a large variant of Shogi. Each player will have 78 pieces of 36 types. In total, you will need to remember 43 moves for these pieces. And I will now list them from the most important to the least important point wise. So the most important goes for the king, then one great general, one vice general, two rook generals, two bishop generals, one free eagle, one queen, two soaring eagles, two horned falcons, two water buffaloes, four chariot soldiers, two fire demons, one lion hawk, one lion, two dragon kings, two dragon horses, two rooks, two bishops, one kirin, one phoenix, one drunken elephant, two blind tigers, two ferocious leopards, two gold generals, two silver generals, two copper generals, two vertical movers, two side movers, two reverse chariots, two vertical soldiers, two side soldiers, two lances, two knights, two iron generals, two dogs, and 16 pawns. As you can probably tell, there is quite a significant amount to remember, but don't worry, hopefully it will become more clear with time. So then, the promotions, I will go quickly over them and then explain how each of the pieces will move and the specific rules and all that. So, the water buffalo will be promoted to the fire demon, the vertical soldier to the water buffalo. Bear in mind as well that once you promote a piece, you cannot promote it again. So the vertical soldier, despite being promoted into the water buffalo, that water buffalo cannot be promoted into a fire demon. There is only one promotion that you can do, and that's it. The stone general will get promoted then to the vertical soldier, the lion to the lion hawk, kirin to lion, free king to the free eagle, phoenix to free king, rook general to the great general, the soaring eagle to the rook general, dragon king to the soaring eagle, rook to dragon king, gold general to rook, pawn to gold general, dog to multi-general, reverse chariot to whale, bishop general to vice general, horned falcon to bishop general, dragon horse to the horned falcon, bishop to the dragon horse, ferocious leopard to bishop, the chariot soldier to the heavenly tetrarchs, side soldier to chariot soldier, knight to the side soldier, vertical mover to the flying ox, silver general to the vertical mover, lance to the white horse, blind tiger to the flying stag, drunk elephant to crown prince, side mover to free boar, and copper general to side mover. The king, fire demon, and vice general do not have any kind of promotions. So now, let's get started with the rules. So, an important difference with Chu Shogi is that there are no capture rules for the lion piece in this case. So there is no restriction on how you have to take them. Then, as we have mentioned in previous videos, it is forbidden to do repetition moves or perpetual checks. So this consists in the same player doing the same kind of move for more than 3 times. It is completely forbidden in official games to be done, and it is something that you should bear in mind. Alright? So now, in this kind of variation, we're gonna have pieces that are known as area movers. Okay? These do not have to move in a line, okay? And these pieces can potentially reach every square within 2 or 3 steps of their starting square, and not just the squares along the diagonals or orthogonals, which refer to the sides, ups and downs, and diagonals to the diagonals above and below. These moves are very useful to get around obstructions, so bear in mind how you use them. We are also gonna have jumping pieces, so these are pieces that can jump over other ones to move behind them or to take a piece that they were protecting, or strategies like that. The most classic one that we know is the knight. Then, ranging pieces are pieces that can move an unlimited number of squares in their specified direction, so bishops can, for instance, move diagonally an infinite number of moves as long as there is no piece that they have to take. And then finally we're gonna have step movers and limited range movers, which we will discuss later, and range jumping pieces, of which some can carry on multiple captures in the same turn. So, in terms of promotion, the promotion zone in this case, unlike Shogi, it is consisted of the upmost 5 ranks for both players. Pieces which take multiple steps per move are probably not allowed to promote by crossing into the promotion zone and back out again. Okay, this is not explicitly stated in the rules, and even if we look at the rules of Chu Shogi, there is no specific guidance on this, merely because some of these pieces are not present in modern Chu Shogi. However, it will go against the tradition and culture that stipulates that a piece that moves from the outside into the inside has to earn its turn there. So the way that it is normally played technically is that you move your piece into the promotion zone and it stays there, not that you get it in, promote it, and then take it out in the same turn. Technically you can do that, but unless the other person agrees, it is forbidden. Bear in mind also that the king, great general, vice general, free eagle, lion, hawk, and fire demon cannot be promoted, and as I mentioned before, you cannot promote promoted pieces to other possible promotions. Okay? Bear in mind as well that you cannot place pawns on places that there are already pawns. You cannot promote pieces that will not be able to move in that spot, so that is very important. So now I'm gonna start telling you about the pieces and how they move. So the first one is gonna be the Jewel General. So this is the challenging player's king, known as the Gyukusho. Okay, this king moves like a normal king. It moves only one spot in any direction around it. Next is the prince, the Taishi, and this one can move like the king, the same kind of pattern. It is the promotion of the drunken elephant, and bear in mind that you only have one drunken elephant, so you can only get one crown prince. If you get a crown prince in the game, in order for you to lose, you either need to break the rules or the opponent needs to capture both the king and the prince. Okay, the next piece is the king general. So this is the challenged player's king, the Osho. It moves like the normal king. Next one is the drunk elephant, the Suiso. It moves in one spot into every direction apart from directly backwards. Then we have a special piece, the Vice General. The Vice General can either do one or two things. It can take a range jumping move or an area move on any one turn. So if it takes its range jump, it means that when making a capture, the Vice General can jump any number of lower ranking pieces along any one diagonal. Otherwise it ranges without jumping. So this means that on its diagonal directions, it can jump over pieces, but the moment that it captures one, it cannot keep moving. And it cannot jump a king, prince, great general, or another vice general. However, it can capture a great general or another vice general by jumping, or any other non-royal prince, but never a king or a prince. Okay? But he can capture them if it's not jumping. If it does an area move, imagine the movement of the king. So it has a square around it. The vice general has 3 squares, meaning that it can either choose to move 1, 2, or 3 spots in any direction that it wishes. But if it does this, it cannot do so by jumping. So if it had a piece in front of it, for instance, it could choose to go to its diagonal and then to the rear of the piece and then keep moving if it wanted. It is really convenient to sort out through other pieces. Then, the Great General, the Taisho. The Taisho can do range jumps, but it doesn't do area moves. So when making a capture, the Great General can jump any number of lower ranking pieces in any one of the 8 directions, otherwise ranging infinitely without jumping. So it cannot jump a king, prince, or another Great General. It can capture another Great General by jumping, or any other non-royal piece, but not a king or a prince. However, it can capture a king or a prince without jumping. Then, the Bishop General, the Kakusho. This one moves like a normal bishop, with the difference that these are range jumps. So it can make capture by jumping any lower ranking pieces along its diagonals, or moving infinitely along them. Okay? It cannot jump a king, prince, or another range jumping general. However, it can capture them by jumping as long as they are non-royal pieces, and it cannot capture a king or a prince unless it does so normally. Okay? The Rook General, the Hisho. It moves like a rook, but with range jumps, meaning that it can make jumps along its forward, backward, and sideways directions until it stops. If there are no pieces blocking its way, it can range without jumping. Then we have the Horned Falcon, the Kakuo. Okay, this piece can either range, so it can move any number of free squares along any of its directions except directly forwards, in which it can do a lion move. So it can choose to step twice or jump 2 squares directly forward, possibly capturing 2 pieces. This includes the power of the Iwi and skipping a turn. So the Iwi will be, for instance, if there was a piece in front of the Horned Falcon, because it can move twice, one spot, it could capture the piece in front of it and then move back. So that's called stationary feeding, Iwi. And if it chose to skip a turn, the player will pick up the piece and just put it back again in the same square, because it can move back to that square. Then, the next piece is the Soaring Eagle. The Soaring Eagle can move any number of squares apart from its directly forward diagonals. Then, in those diagonals, forward diagonals, it can move like the lion, as we talked before, same kind of movements as the Kakuo. Then we have the Dragon Horse, okay, and it can choose to move either as a bishop or a king. So it can move any number of squares in its diagonals without jumping, or move 1 square in the directions that it does not possess. Then the Dragon King, the Ryo, can either choose to move like a rook or a king, and it does the opposite of the dragon horse. Then we have the bishop, the kakugyo, which can move any number of squares in diagonal directions. The rook, the hisha, can choose to move any number of squares either forward, backward, or sideways. Then we have the ferocious leopard, the mohyo. It can move one square into any direction apart from sideways. Then we have the gold general. The gold general can move one spot in any direction apart from diagonally backwards. Then we have the pawn, the fugio. The fugio can choose to move one square in front of it, and that's it. Then we have the most important piece of the game, the fire demon. Okay, this piece has more special abilities than any of the other pieces that we have discussed. So, it can choose to move any number of free squares in the 4 diagonal directions or its sides. So it can move basically any number of squares in any of its directions. Okay? Then it can either do that or choose to make an area move. So it can choose to move 1, 2, or 3 squares in any direction, forming a big square around it. It cannot do a range and then an area move. It has to be either one of those. But the important thing about this piece is that it has the ability to burn. So the immediate adjacent squares to it, so the directly 3 above, 3 below, and 1 to each side, are called the burning zone. So when this piece moves, another enemy pieces come into the inside of that area, they die automatically. Meaning that if you place this piece right, you could potentially kill up to 8 pieces of the enemy, or 9 if you kill one as well. Then this ability carries into the enemy turn with an ability that's called passive burning. So any piece that moves into that square of the fire demon dies automatically. And if another fire demon moves into contact with it, an enemy fire demon, the fire demon that moves into the range of the other fire demon dies. The one that remains stationary does not suffer any consequences. So this makes the game way faster than what you would expect, because potentially it could kill 9 or 10 pieces in a single round. And bear in mind that there is no drop rule here. The second most powerful piece in the game is the Heavenly Tetrarch, the Shintenno. Okay? This piece cannot move to any adjacent square and is not blocked from moving by pieces on those squares. However, it can capture these pieces without moving, because it can perform the lion move of Iwi. Okay, so it can capture any piece and go back to its original square if it wishes. Then it does have range moves. It can move any number of free squares along any one of the 4 diagonals or along its orthogonal file, skipping any intervening piece on the adjacent square. Okay? Bear in mind that it is not a range jumper and cannot jump any other piece anywhere else on its path. Okay? Then it can also do limited range moves, so it can choose to move 2 or 3 squares orthogonally sideways. Although it skips any intervening piece on the first square, it cannot jump a piece on the second square. Okay, if it captures on the second square, it has to stop there. Next we have the water buffalo, the Shigyu. Okay, these pieces can move infinitely in any directions apart from directly forwards and backwards, in which it can either choose to move 1 or 2 spots. Okay, then it can we have the chariot soldier, the Shahei. Okay, it does the opposite move of the water buffalo. It can choose to move any number of squares apart from sideways, where it can either move once or twice. Then we have the side soldier, the Ohei, that can move any number of squares sideways, but only 1 backwards or 1 or 2 forwards. Okay. Then we have the vertical soldier that can move infinitely forwards, 1 or 2 sideways, and 1 backwards. Then we have the knight, the keima. It can choose to move directly forwards and jump pieces. It can move in a capital L direction. Then we have the iron general, the Tessho. It can choose to move one space directly forward and diagonally forward. Then we have the free eagle. The free eagle can move any number of free squares in any direction, or it moves twice like a cat sword, so one square in any diagonal direction. Okay, so it can move infinitely in any direction or choose to move twice. Then we have the lion hawk, the Shio. Okay, the lion hawk can move any number of free squares in the 4 diagonal directions or make lion moves around it, which include the igui and the multiple captures or the stationary lion moves. Then we have the queen. The queen, like in chess, can move any number of squares in any of its directions. Then the lion. We have already described the lion before in the video and in other videos, so we'll just go quickly over it. It can move twice. Okay, it can perform a stationary feeding by attacking in any of its directions and then moving back, or it can choose to jump any distance of up to 2 squares. Okay, and remember that there are no capturing restrictions unlike in Shogi. We then have the phoenix, which can move either one space forward, backwards, sideways, or it can jump like the horse on its diagonals. The Kirin does the opposite. The Kirin can move one square in any of its diagonal directions or decide to jump forward, backward, or sideways. We then have the free boar. The free boar can move in any direction, any number of squares, apart from forward and backward, known as the honcho. Then we have the higyu, the flying ox. It does the complete opposite. It can move any number of squares apart from sideways. We then have the side mover, the ogyo. It can move any number of squares on its sides and only one forward or one backward. The vertical mover, the shugyo, can move infinitely forward or backward and only one sideways. We then have the copper general, the dosho. The dosho can choose to move one square forward, backward, or diagonally forward. We then have the silver general, the ginsho, which can move one square forward and one square on any of its diagonal directions. Then we have the suisho, the multi-general, which can move any number of squares forward or diagonally backwards. Then we have the hiroku, the flying stack, which can move any number of pieces front, backwards, or one on any of its diagonals and sides. Then we have the dog, the inu, which can move one in front and one directly backwards in its diagonals. Then we have the blind tiger, the moko, which can move one square in any direction apart from forward. The white horse, which can move infinitely forwards and backwards and diagonally forwards. The whale does the opposite. It moves directly forwards, backwards, or infinitely on its diagonals backwards. Then we have the lance, the kyosha, which moves only forwards infinitely, and the reverse chariot, the hensha, which can move infinitely forwards and backwards. So those are all of the pieces of the game, and I will just repeat very quickly again what they can be promoted into. So there are no fire demons technically at the start of the game, as far as I know, but the water buffalo can promote into it. Then you have the vertical soldier that promotes into the water buffalo, the stone general into the vertical soldier. You can refer back to the picture before in the video for it. Then, as stated before, the game ends when the king and the prince, if it's in play, is checkmated. It is forbidden to do repetition or perpetual checks, okay? And the most important pieces are the fire demons, the great general, and the vice general. with all of the other pieces being worth significantly less. That is if you are playing with points. Okay? So then, now, in my personal opinion, this kind of variant is very exciting, because even if it's a large variant, the fact that it has pieces that can take out several in one turn is really, really convenient. And it allows you to literally just attack if you need to very quickly. Normally, based on the lay of the game, you will try to make space for your ranging pieces to get into the middle of the board and then attack the enemy, and then your fire demons, because if you manage to take advantage of their infinite moves and put them, say, in the center of the file, you could make a massive hole into the defense of your enemy, and because they cannot drop pieces back into the game, it will be a bad thing for them as well. It is important to bear in mind that there are some weak pieces like the dog that are not very useful, so the most important thing about this game is being quick and using the ranging pieces to try to take out as many of the other pieces as you can, either in the flanks or directly forwards, and trying to rush a quick victory, because at the beginning of the game there is only a king, and if you take out the drunk elephant, you take their chance of having later on in the game a crown prince, which could be very dangerous if you are not careful about it. It is important to bear in mind as well the promotions. You need to be in the top 5 ranks, and it is harder to promote in this than Shogi or Chushogi, because these pieces are more powerful and they move a lot, so you have to be careful if you are trying to stage promotions of things that are weak, like the crown prince or the water buffaloes, which can give you extra fire demons, which you actually get 2 of them in the 3rd rank of the board. In my opinion, this is a very cool variation, and I have played it before, and I have found that the games are actually quite quick. Normally it is good to try to open from the ranks and let your ranged pieces move forward, and if you can try to align them on the extreme sides where less pieces of the enemy can move, it will be very convenient, especially for your lions as well, because they can perform igui or jump over other pieces if necessary.